What's up, y'all? Welcome back. Thanks for tuning in live every Sunday, 12 Eastern Time. Today we're talking about understanding muscle damage in muscle hypertrophy, the third one of this series. But first, I think we have some updates.
We certainly do, James.
Started the bulk this week. Bulk is going great. I'm up 5 pounds already, so 210 to 215 already. Another 5 pounds to go before I pump the brakes. Unfortunately, I had a little mishap happen. If you didn't see the community pictures, I tore my hamstring, y'all.
What gets me is how he tore his hamstring, y'all. Like, you've seen him do some pretty ridiculous rack pulls, deadlifts, all sorts of crazy stuff. But how did you tear your hamstring?
Running sprints. Running sprints. We had a beautiful day. There's a track that I have available that I can use. So I was running 100-yard sprints. And, man, I felt great. Let me tell you something. I was flying.
Did you warm up first?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Jogged 2 laps, walked 2 laps, jogged 2 laps, and then did a couple sprints. It was the 4th sprint that I tore it on. The first 2 sprints, 50%, 80%, and then the third one was at 100%. And then the 4th one went ahead again at 100%. And I'm telling you, I'm flying. I'm flying. I'm like, man, this is fast. Let me see if I can go faster. Pop. There it went. If you haven't seen the pictures, they're up in the community. They're pretty.
It's pretty nasty.
Pretty bad. The bruise actually looks worse today. But, hey, we'll drive on, baby. Leg day is going to be light for a little while. But yes, we will drive on. We will drive on and continue to do what we can do until that leg is back to 100%. All right. Any other updates?
I don't think so. I think that's it for this week.
So, yeah, and keep in mind, this is very frustrating, but injuries happen. This is just like any other sport. Very few times are people at the top of their sport at 100%, training at 100%, practicing at 100%, because these things happen. So it's frustrating, but I'll get over it. I'll drive on, and the leg gains will come back. I'm probably just going to have to take a month or 2 off, let it heal.
Yeah, and I love what he said, like trying to work around it, still going to the gym and doing what he can. I think you even said something about like a light leg day, like maybe there are things you can do that don't involve your hamstring. So yeah, if you get sidelined with an injury, that doesn't mean, hey, you do this like hiatus from the gym for a couple months. It just means, hey, train other things, focus on other things.
Do what you can. I've seen guys come into the gym with crutches. They're coming in crutches, literally got a cast on their leg, but they're doing upper body.
Yeah. Sounds good. All right. Well, let's talk about our third mechanism for hypertrophy. So for the last couple of weeks, we've been really breaking it down. We started off by talking about mechanical tension. So that's literally the weights that you're using when you're lifting at the gym. Last week, we talked all about metabolic stress and how that was important for anabolic signaling and muscle growth. And today we're talking about muscle damage.
Trauma.
So we're going to focus all on that today. But I see we have a few people online. If you have questions, even if it's not related to muscle damage as a mechanism for hypertrophy, ask away. We're here to answer any questions that you may have.
88 Health and Wellness. Hey. Thanks for tuning in.
Absolutely. All right. So when we're talking about muscle damage, what exactly do we mean? So we're really talking about those microscopic tears that happen in the muscle fibers that occur during intense training. So I don't know if there's a layman's version of that, but
that was pretty lame. If anybody has issues understanding that, let me know. Drop me a line. I'll explain it to you better. But that was pretty lame. You do the microscopic tears. That's what you want to do in the gym.
Right.
They grow back bigger. They grow back stronger. So those microscopic tears is the damage you want to do while you're in the gym. Rest, recover, let them grow bigger, stronger.
Yeah. So in particular, I want to talk a little bit about eccentric movement. So that's the lowering portion of a rep.
Negative.
Yep, the negative portion of a rep, because a lot of times this is where that damage is occurring. So it's not so much on the concentric part, the squeeze part of, like, for instance, a bicep curl. It's the lowering part of that bicep curl where you have the potential for the most damage.
Yeah, I mean, we've been preaching that from day one. And anybody that knows any science or has any personal training and education knows the eccentric part is what builds the muscles. I mean, it doesn't make sense. It's the one very few things that doesn't make common sense in fitness. The lifting part,
Right.
it helps, but that doesn't build the muscle. It's the lowering part.
Right. Especially if you're controlling that lengthened part.
Slow and controlled.
Slow and controlled. So if you're doing like heavy bicep curls, you want to make sure you're still got the right tempo for the lowering part. You just don't want to let go. But if you are controlling that lowering part, the eccentric, then you are going to get a lot of those little micro tears. And that's because the lengthening action of that movement creates a lot of shearing force on those muscle fibers. So I had to nerd it up for you guys a little bit, but so because of that shearing force, and because you also have greater force production in the muscle when it's stretched under load than you do with the concentric, that makes it really effective for getting muscle damage in the eccentric. So what do you think about that? Would you say that that's true?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm trying to think how I can put it in layman's terms. The lowering of the weight is what builds the muscle. Pretty put it in layman's terms here. Yes, lifting the weight is a part of the rep. You have to lift it in order to lower it.
Right.
But you're making the muscles lower in that weight. You see guys or girls dropping away, boom, they're missing the whole point of lifting if you're trying to build muscle.
I mean, I think it's worth mentioning, years ago, before I was a personal trainer, before I was really consistent in the gym, I was kind of like everybody else. I always thought the concentric squeeze part is like how you made the muscles.
Yeah.
I think it took a lot of education, a lot of reading, a lot of YouTubing to realize like that's not exactly true, that you have more potential to make muscles and create those micro tears in the lengthening part.
Yeah, you beat me to it. Everybody thinks that until they get some education. It makes sense to think lifting the thing is going to do the building, not lowering it.
Right.
So everybody on this planet thinks that unless they get some education, unless they do some research, then they go, holy smokes, lifting it is the weakest part of the rep. Literally the weakest part of the rep is lifting the weight. Squeezing and lowering are stronger than lifting the weight. Yeah. Big T's on. What's up, Big T? Bam! My man.
So let's talk a little bit, now that you know that it's those little micro tears that occur primarily on the eccentric portion of the lift. Let's talk about like how does that actually stimulate hypertrophy? So first and foremost, as soon as you get one of those little micro tears, it initiates this inflammatory response in your body. So that response is your cell saying, uh-oh, something's happened. I have to go repair and protect myself. And not only that, it starts to initiate an immune response where it wants to clear out the waste. And, maybe there's some byproduct or just some debris left in the area that it needs to take away.
Waste products.
Yeah.
Big T said he's sore from finishing up back day.
Well, you must have did it right, or did ya?
You're feeling that muscle damage already, baby. I love it.
Yeah. So not only that, so as soon as like that inflammatory response is, we also will release what's called satellite cells. So sit on the surface of the muscle fiber needed. And so what they'll do is they'll go down to where the cell damage, and they can multiply for however many you need, and then they help to start repairing that micro tear in your muscle fiber.
Guess what happens when you don't do a micro tear in your muscle fibers? You don't activate satellite cells. You don't get muscle hypertrophy.
Yeah, and not only that, your body also starts increasing protein synthesis to help rebuild those damaged fibers. And so over time, this leads to adaptation. And every time the cell is kind of micro-teared and repaired, it actually starts becoming thicker and bigger, and that's how your muscles grow in size.
Thicker and bigger muscles, yeah. Big T wants to know how the leg's doing. It hurts, T. I ain't gonna lie to you, brother, but it is getting better. It actually happened last week, and I couldn't walk. I mean, I was limping. I can walk without a limp now, so we're doing all right. But you're probably looking at a month or two before I'm be able to train legs for real again.
Yeah.
If anybody doesn't know what Big T's talking about, I tore my hamstring. The picture's in the community section if you want to check it out.
Yeah, and so we're actually going to talk a little bit today about like what's an appropriate amount of muscle damage, and then what is like a severe amount, and what happens if you start training at that severe amount range. So that'll be an interesting topic. But yeah, just to recap, you create that trauma doing the eccentric part of the lift. Your body, triggers a response. First inflammatory, then it activates the satellite cells to go repair. It hypes up the protein synthesis production, and then over time your cells become bigger. So that's what we've just been talking about. So now let's talk about so what are some practical things? So if that were the case, like everyone would just go to the gym and do negatives all day long.
You have to lift the weight in order to do the negative. So
yeah. I think exercise selection plays a huge role in it. And so hopefully all of the people watching have watched our previous live videos where we talked about the best exercise selection for hypertrophy, because I think there are exercises that lend themselves to allowing you to do that eccentric part better than some of the others.
Sure.
So for instance, like a deadlift. A deadlift's a really great one where you can focus on the eccentric part of the lift.
No danger there.
Yeah.
There's danger if you do it on a squat. There's danger if you do it on a bench press. You better have safeties up. You better have a spotter. You better do what you need to do to make it happen. But absolutely, barbell curl, easy.
Right.
Deadlift, no sweat. Do it by yourself. But like I said, if you're gonna do it with a squat, you better have safeties up. You better have a spotter. Yeah,
like a shoulder press is another great one. Exercise, to pick for hypertrophy. You can really focus on the lowering part. Especially. So, and in addition to that, it's always important to look at the intensity and the volume that you're lifting at. I think 90% of the time, just my own experience myself and working with my clients, the intensity is usually not there for what's needed for hypertrophy.
Exactly.
You think you're training to your max and you're just not.
You're not anywhere near it. I mean, I've been in this game 26 years, literally as a professional in the industry, and I haven't met, I'm not going to say I haven't met, very few know actually what intensity is and what intensity it takes to build muscle. Very few. 99.9% of people do 10 reps, go, ooh, that was kind of hard.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, it takes a little bit of your soul sometimes to hit that intensity level. And once you've hit it, you can't kind of unsee anymore. What it takes. And I mean, it's the truth, right? So when you hit that subpar workout, you're like, oh man, this was just, this was a waste. I know I had more intensity in me to hit.
We've talked about this before, after a super intense set, if you don't close your eyes and feel like you had an out of body experience, you probably didn't go hard enough.
Right.
And I know you feel it. I feel it. I felt it this morning doing arms, doing a bicep. I had to literally gather myself for probably 3 minutes after the set because I went that hard. I'm catching my breath. I'm lightheaded. I mean,
he tripped over some part of some Smith machine. It was pretty funny.
But once you're in that set and you're giving 100% to that set, you will know what the intensity is. You will know what it feels to build muscle. Until you get that feeling, like Camille said, it's alien until you get it.
Right.
But that's where most people fall short. They think they're doing 10. And I've done this myself. I'll give you an example. I deadlifted 315 pounds for 10 for, 5 years.
Yeah.
And then the light went off and said, hey, dummy, you haven't made a gain in 10 years. Why don't you do 11 reps? Well, 10's hard to do.
Let me ask you this. Were you still getting sore? Because I think a lot of people gauge their intensity level on the level of soreness. And to me, that's not a good thing, because for that 5 years or whatever, you were probably getting sore after those workouts where you did the same weight and same rep.
I was.
Yeah.
There's actually studies out that say the soreness might be your fascia. It might not even be your muscles. So.
Yeah. So I think, you definitely can't gauge level of intensity on soreness. I think you have to progressive overload, write it in your book.
Yes.
We're going to keep saying that one.
Yeah. And believe me, while I was doing those 315-pound deadlifts for 10 reps, they're hard. They are very hard. In my mind, I didn't think I could do 11 until the light went off and said, hey, dummy,
why don't you try?
Either do 320 pounds or do 11 reps.
Right.
Well, when I went in there, I pulled 15. So
it was obviously too late.
Those 5 years I just wasted. I maintained, I didn't gain. But, you know, after doing the 15 reps, I had to sit down, lightheaded, out of body experience, blah, blah, blah. But that's the intensity level it takes. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think some great techniques are, like we said, trying to add weight or try to add a rep.
Right.
But you can also do other intensifying techniques. I know like drop sets and force reps are great. They basically extend your set to help get that level of intensity up that you need to create that damage. I really like forced reps. Like anytime I'm training with James, I'm like, come on, help me out. Like I want to get some forced reps in here where, you know, I can really focus on that eccentric part.
The best way to do it is record your weights.
Yeah.
Weights and reps, and make sure you add one every single workout. I mean, that makes it simple. That makes it objective. That is by far the best way to do it.
So let's talk now about how much damage is too much damage. Like, can you create too much damage?
This is controversial.
It kind of is. So some signs that you're creating too much damage might be your typical overtraining signs, like you're persistently sore, you're extremely fatigued, like all the time.
Can't sleep.
And your performance is down. So like you go into the gym expecting to be able to lift 315 because you've been doing it for the last 5 years and you can't. So that would be a good example of being overtrained somehow.
88 Health and Wellness, a great point on soreness not being a true sign. You got to pay attention to that, because even if you do a different exercise that you haven't done in a couple years, you're going to get sore as all heck.
Right.
Does that mean it made hypertrophy?
No.
No, it just means you haven't done it in a long time. And your body's going, oh, okay, welcome back.
Yeah, I think it's important too to realize that, you know, excessive muscle damage can actually lead to injuries, which will set back progress 100%. Like James running sprints at 80% was probably good enough. I'm not sure he had to go to 100%.
I went to 110%, y'all. I was fast as I could go, and I said, let me see if I can go faster. No.
Yeah. Well, lesson learned, right?
Lesson learned. Hard lesson learned.
And I think a lot of it's a balancing act. You know, you have to find the right balance between actually challenging yourself and then allowing adequate recovery.
I think that's where most people fail. It's not the damage, it's they don't let it recover.
Yeah. So I know like that is controversial because people like doing a 5-day split, right? Monday's International Chest Day, Tuesday's back day. Okay, maybe I rest Wednesday, then chest, then shoulders, then arms, whatever. Like they like regimented work. And I think that's a challenge because are you recovering? You know, it takes time for those satellite cells and the inflammatory response and all that good stuff to work. So, you know, if your body's dedicating those resources to, let's say it was a leg day, repairing your legs because they got, you know, those little micro tears, and now you went out the next day and you trained chest and you did the same thing, well, you're having to divide those resources for repair. So
this all goes back to Mentor, y'all. He preached this 40 years ago.
I didn't really believe that though until I said, okay, like what's the worst that will happen? Let me try it. And so I would do my intense workouts and then I wouldn't work out again for, you know, 3, sometimes 5 days before I would actually train again. It was kind of boring at times because you're used to that regimented, you know, 5 or 6 day split. But I never felt overtrained. I always felt like I could go 100% by the time I, you know, was ready to get back into the gym. So
something to be said.
Something to be said. And my weights kept going up. I kept getting a rep. I kept adding weight every week for months, like months. I did this for probably 6 months and I was able to keep progressive overloading before hitting plateau. And that was not the case with my 5-day split.
Yeah. And that's objective. You know, if you're getting stronger every single workout, you're getting gains.
Yeah.
That is the only way to objectively look at it. Unless you're measuring your muscles, which you can do that as well.
Yeah.
But if you're doing that, you are going to make the gains. It's going to take time, but you're going to make the gains. You have to be, I think the answer is you have to be flexible. Yes, I have a workout schedule, but for example, yesterday I went to Planet Fitness at 3 o'clock in the morning to go do buys and tries. Got on the preacher curl for a warm-up set and said, whoa, I'm too sore.
Right.
I put it down, gabbed my stuff, and I went home. I didn't even do cardio that morning.
No,
I
came right back home. I was like, what are you doing home?
But you have to be smart about it. If you're too sore to give 100% to that workout, absolutely cut it and go home.
I mean, and it's tough, right? So I was telling James before we got on live, like I trained legs on Monday. And so I was like, all right, by Wednesday, I'm going to be super sore. Got it, but it went beyond that, right? So normally by that third day, I'm like good to go, but it's Sunday and I am still like having trouble sitting down. My legs are so sore. So that probably means I created severe muscle damage, maybe going a little beyond just your simple micro tears. And so that means my body is literally using everything it's got to try to put this back together. But unfortunately, I didn't even realize I was at that point. So what did I do? Like I trained shoulders, I trained chest. Like I am just so sore now. And so you really got to think about that, because now I'm in the state where I got at least 3 to 4 different muscle groups completely destroyed. My body's like, hey, what are you doing? Like I really need to not train for several days. Make sure I'm hydrating, make sure I'm sleeping, make sure I'm eating, because the amount of protein synthesis that has to happen now is extreme. So,
Big T said rest, recovery, and nutrition going to be key to helping recovery. 100%, brother. You said it first. Rest, recover. I got the leg injury this week. I've been having trouble cranking up the intensity at the gym. It's another reason probably I took another day off when I was supposed to work out, because my body's using resources to help this torn hamstring recover.
Right.
It's also helping my sore muscles. So I got divided things going on. They're not recovering as fast as they usually do. I don't have the energy level I usually do, et cetera, et cetera.
Now, your body can work on 2 different areas at the same time. Sure. It's really efficient at doing that. So definitely don't take what we're saying as like you can't have 2 sore muscle groups. Like you can.
You're asking what's best.
Right. If you're asking what's best, it would be just one area for it to focus on.
Once it hits 0, then you're ready to go again.
Right. But you definitely don't want to get in the situation where I'm at this week, where I've literally got 3 to 4 different muscle groups, all sore,
beat up.
Like we try to go do arm day, and I was like, this is just not gonna, like I had to call it today. Like you called it the day before and came home and said, let's wait a day. I went and tried today. It was probably not my best performance. There were several exercises where I just had to say, I can't do this. So yeah, I think it's interesting.
Big T, I got a tweak in my neck from shoulders this week. Had to cut my intensity a little down, throw in some mobility and stretching this week. Fantastic, T. Not once did he say he's not going to the gym. Not once did he say, I'm going to sit here and do nothing until this thing recovers. He's going there and he's working his mobility and his stretching until it recovers. Way to go, T.
And that's smart, T. That's definitely smart. The neck, like you don't realize how much it can influence and impact in your lifts. But man, if you have a tweaked neck, like there goes your shoulder day, there goes your chest day. Half the time it'll creep down your spine into like, the thoracic area. And now, back day sucks.
Even biceps. Like cramming up your neck, that's a bad one.
Yeah, so definitely take the time to stretch and recover if you get any type of tweak, especially one like in that cervical area. So what do you do with program design? So
you got to be flexible. This is going to be tough for people that go with, meet with coaches, meet with trainers. But if you have a coach that's worth a shit, worth a darn, or a trainer that's worth a darn, they're going to notice you're not up to your what you should be lifting. Let's pause. Let's talk about it. And your trainer should say, you're overtrained. Come back tomorrow. Come back whatever day.
Or do something else, whatever.
Right.
It's usually the first thing that I ask my clients. Like even just this morning I had a client walk in, I looked at her and say, so what's sore today? Because I will either avoid those body parts or we'll do something completely different depending on what the answer to that question is. But yeah, you definitely like don't want to work out sore muscles.
That's the golden rule. You
Yeah.
don't work out so much.
Yeah. What do you think too about periodization? Like maybe even changing out what you do. I know sometimes after I've been doing like a regular split for a while, I'll combine body parts, almost like a deload week. I only do this maybe every 6 months or so. But yeah, I try to switch it up, like between normal hypertrophy, 5-day split, multiple body groups. Sometimes I'll even do like a strength training kind of program, if you will, for a while. I try to vary my training style a little bit to try to prevent overtraining.
I'm with it.
Mhm.
You should change your program up about every 8 weeks, but you don't need to deload.
Yeah.
Forget the deload. There's no reason to deload unless you're just taking a week off, which you would be better off just taking a week off.
Yeah.
So yes, change your program up, but there's no need to deload. There's no periodization. Keep progressively overloading. Like we talked before, your muscle cells don't have a brain cell. They don't need to be confused. They need to be overloaded.
Yeah. All right. What about some mistakes to avoid?
I think overtraining is the biggest one.
Yeah.
And that's, the more you look into it, the more you see it, the more people are really overtraining us. And I get it. It's the American way. You want to go more. More is better.
Right.
More is better. More is better. Unfortunately,
Right.
volume is not better when it comes to hypertrophy.
Yeah, I think nutrition's an interesting thing too, especially because like I know for clients that are trying to cut down for a show, like they're at this deficit, they're putting the work in, so they're definitely kind of teetering on overtrained, and it's hard. Like you may not be able to give yourself that nutrition that you need to fully recover.
So listen, when you're talking about competing, once you get pre-contest, you're not building muscle anymore.
Right.
You're stripping fat and you're holding muscle.
Right.
You build the muscle in the off season. Very, very, very few people. I've seen it, but
I've seen a
very,
couple.
very few people build muscle during a prep.
Right.
You're at a caloric deficit. Your main goal is to strip the fat.
Yeah, I think that's like a hard thing for a lot of people to understand or accept sometimes too. Of a lot of clients, I have to constantly say like, we're no longer trying to build muscle. We're trying to preserve muscle while we're leaning out.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Commando Slayer's on. What's up, my man?
Yeah.
He's got a question. Do different muscles require different resting times? That's a fantastic question. I usually wait at least 4 days to recover. Good stuff.
That's a really good amount of time. I would say yes.
100%
they do.
Yes. My biceps and triceps can recover.
And shoulders.
And shoulders can recover in 2 days max. I hit a heavy leg day, you're talking 5 days at least. 5 days to recover.
Or if you're like me, a whole week. Back is another one that will stay sore for a while, and chest. For me.
So it's the bigger muscles that need more time to recover. Makes sense. You're doing more load, you're lifting more weight, you're creating more trauma with the bigger muscles. Right. They're going to take more time to recover.
But yeah, arms, shoulders, calves, even glutes, abs.
They recover pretty quick.
Yeah, they're not so bad. That's a great question, though. Thank you for that one.
Yeah. But like leg day, if you're sore for 5 days, it's not unusual, y'all.
Yeah. All right. So let's recap a little bit. For the last 3 weeks, we've been talking about the mechanisms for hypertrophy. We went through mechanical tension, metabolic stress. Today, we spent some time talking about muscle damage.
The damage.
Yes. Which is just creating those little micro tears in your muscle fibers.
The trauma.
And we talked about one of the best ways to ensure this is happening is by focusing on the eccentric part of the lift, because you have the most potential for creating that damage, micro tears. We talked a lot about what happens after that tear happens, the whole inflammatory response, the activation of the satellite cells, which go in and actually do some repair, the protein synthesis, all kind of leading to adaptation, which is the thickening and increase in the muscle cell size. So that's what we want. So just make sure you're getting, that damage in. A lot of that is not really related to soreness. We talked about it's actually related more to the intensity that you're applying in that session.
Did we talk about can you create too much damage?
Not specifically, but yes, you can. It's called a muscle tear. But yeah, in terms of like creating little micro tears and having severe damage, it just means you're going to have an even more robust inflammatory response. You're going to activate even more satellite cells, have to do even more protein synthesis, which means you have to have the available nutrients and all of these things.
And more recovery time.
And more recovery time. So no, you can't, do too much damage, but it's a fine line, because on the other side of damage is injury.
So what was all that talk about proliferation of the muscle cell?
So proliferation just means the satellite cells are actually multiplying and adhering, and
not the muscle cells.
And adhering themselves to the damaged area to repair it.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Big T. Now, will creatine monohydrate speed up recovery time? I think I'm supposed to say, how will creatine? Good question, Big T. You want to handle that?
Go for it. I mean, creatine's a really great supplement, one of the most studied supplements out there. It's absolutely going to speed up your recovery time.
It does.
So it's a great one for you to use.
It's one amino acid, so it's one of your amino acid profiles, which you should be getting all the amino acids you can. It's going to help you recover faster than without it.
Yeah, you got it.
Good question, T. I mean, any nutrient. You can say that for, you want essential amino acids, you want the branched chain amino acids, you want creatine, you want complete proteins, you want your vitamins, your minerals, your fats, your healthy fats. You can say that for all of them. They all help speed up recovery. They all help your body recover. If you're eating junk, you're robbing your body of its recovery abilities.
Yeah. In fact, T, we're actually next week going to talk about post-workout nutrition, which creatine will play a role in that. So we will talk a little bit more about that then.
It was you, Big T, that asked about post-workout last week. Got me doing a little research, and there's so much different stuff out there.
There is.
I literally read 2 articles that said the exact different things this morning. So next week, we're going to talk about post-workout nutrition after we research it all week and get our info.
Yeah. All right. Well, anything to add on muscle damage?
It's like I always said, the more damage you do, the bigger the muscle will be when it repairs and recovers. But if you don't let it rest and recover, it isn't going to grow. It isn't going to repair. It's like I said last week, Tom Platz did legs twice a month. Twice a month, y'all. That's it. That's 24 times a year. 24 leg days a year.
You can't argue the results.
It's all this man did. So it just shows you, if you bring the intensity, if you create the muscle damage, and then you let it rest and you let it repair, it's going to blow up.
Right.
Most people don't let it rest, don't let it repair.
Yeah, I mean, I think the key is you have to log in your book. You have to track it. You have to even maybe journal. How do you feel day to day? Like, there are other indicators to tell you that you're not ready to hit that next training day. You just have to really be in tune with your body and listen to it.
Yeah, and tracking it makes it objective. Like I said, if I feel tired, check that at the door.
Right.
Check your tiredness at the door. If you can't bring your intensity up for 1 hour, you are completely overtrained and you should not even walk into that gym. But if it's your workout day, check your tiredness at the door. You're not tired, you're uninspired.
There you go. Heard it from James.
But like I did, if you go in there and you grab the weight, you go, whoa, I'm sore. What the?
Yeah.
And then put it back down, cut it, done.
All right.
Done. So I went in to do biceps. I actually did back 2 days prior. So my biceps were still sore from doing back 2 days prior. I didn't even realize it until I did that first rep. Listen, y'all, I get up at 2 o'clock in the morning.
He's just autopilot.
I was autopilot. I was probably at the gym at 2:40. Got on the preacher curl to do my warm up, to get warmed up. And the very first rep was super lightweight. As soon as I felt it, that's when I said, oh no, I'm sore. I can't do this today. I'm not going to be able to. Well,
that was smart. And really smart. And I'm sure you got a much better workout today than you would have had you stayed yesterday.
Oh yeah, we killed it this morning.
Yeah.
But the tiredness, I can't,
I'm tired every day, y'all. So I don't know. Like, I would just never work out.
Thank you. Thank you for
Especially
that.
at 40.
Thank you for that. I don't think I'd bounce out of bed anymore doing
Right.
cartwheels saying, "Hey, I'm full of energy today. Let's go." Oh, does anybody else out there do that? That'd be great. I mean, that's Camille used to do it when she was young, but now she's over 40.
All right, y'all. Well, I appreciate you guys tuning in today. We
Yes.
absolutely love your questions, so keep them
Yes.
coming. We really enjoyed this 3-part series, but we're definitely shifting gears next week to talk about post-workout nutrition.
Yep.
And hopefully we can bust some myths for you guys or answer any questions that you may have on that.
Yeah, we got a work cut out for us this week because, like I said, there's a lot of information.
And
out
there's
there.
newer studies now that are interesting. So we'll go all through that for you guys.
Yeah, and the articles I read this morning, I did not, look at the dates. So the first one could have been dated, the second one could have been newer. That might have been why the opposite information, but I didn't look at the dates. My bad.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone.
Yes, Kylie, 88, Health and Wellness, Terrence, Big T, and my man, Commander Slayer. Appreciate the comments. Appreciate you all tuning in. This channel's for you. If you have any suggestions, we will cover it. Thanks for tuning in. Don't miss us next week. We're doing post